Hello, everyone. My name is Tina, and thank you for having me here at the Executive Planning Day for our organization. So, today I'm presenting the findings about the business environment that might be helpful for our organization strategy in the future. So, this is the agenda for this presentation, and I will walk you guys through all of these four topics. So, let's start with topic one the macroeconomy, including GDP, inflation, unemployment, and understanding the business cycle. So, I'll talk about the first indicator GDP. So, GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. It measures the total value of goods and services produced within a country over a specific time period, and usually 1 year. So, this is the formula to calculate GDP. So, it is also used for measuring living standards, analyzing economic growth, and determining whether the economy is in expansion or contraction, which is the business cycle I'll address in the next few slides. So, moving on to the second indicator, inflation is the rate at which the overall price level rises, thereby reducing money's purchasing power. And this is the formula to calculate inflation. So, from inflation rate, we can assess the economic conditions in which a moderate inflation rate signals a healthy, growing economy. Hyperinflation, by contrast, is where prices of goods and services are uncontrollably rises, leading to economic instability, while deflation discourages spending and investment, which often leads to recession. So the third economic indicator is the unemployment rate, which is the share of the labor force that is jobless despite actively seeking work. So this is the formula to calculate unemployment rate. And the rate of unemployment can provide insights into the economy in which high unemployment indicates underutilized labor resources, leading to lost income for workers and reduced consumer spending, which can slow economic growth. Meanwhile, low unemployment reflects a strong economy with robust job creation. So changes in GDP, unemployment, and inflation reveal where we are in the business cycle, which has two phases, expansion and contraction. During an expansion, raising demand forces business to boost production, so GDP grows and hire more workers, causing unemployment to fall. And as demand outpaces supply, prices climb, therefore inflation rises. Conversely, in a contraction, weakened demand leads firms to cut back output, shrinking GDP and lay off staff, so unemployment increases. With lower demand, prices drop and inflation slows. In short, expansions bring higher GDP, lower unemployment, and raising inflation, while contraction sees the opposite, falling GDP, rising unemployment, and declining inflation. So why all businesses, especially our company, have to understand this concept because it helps organizations make smarter strategic decisions, knowing where to expand production or delay investment, while demand forecasting allow firms to anticipate consumer spending shift during booms and bursts. This insight also underpins risk mitigation by building financial buffers and adjusting supply chains before downturns hit. And this also confers a competitive advantage. Companies that recognize and act on economic shift can capture market share, strengthen customer relationship, and maintain branches under volatile conditions. So that is also the end for topic one. Let's move on to topic two, tariffs and trade war. Though the issue of President Trump imposing a 10% tariff on all exported goods from Australia has affected both the US and the Australia economy, and it will be presented in the next two slides. So I'll address from Australia perspective first. The when the US imposed this tariff on all Australian exports, it makes those goods more expensive for American consumers. As a result, demand for Australian products in the US declined, reducing Australia's total export and net exports, which shift the aggregate demand curve to the left, as you guys can see in the graph. Because input costs remain unchanged in the short run, the short run aggregate supply and long run aggregate supply curve stay fixed. The leftward aggregate demand shift leads to a new equilibrium with lower real GDP and a lower overprice level in Australia. Impacted by this issue, so, from the US perspective, higher import prices from all foreign suppliers, including Australia, reduce overall import volumes and raise US net exports, shifting the US aggregate demand curve to the right. However, many American firms rely on imported inputs, so the new tariffs push up their production cost, causing a leftward shift of the US short run aggregate demand curve, while US long run aggregate supply remain constant as it isn't immediately affected by tariffs. The combined effect of a rightward aggregate demand shift and leftward short-run aggregate supply shift creates a new equilibrium with higher price levels. In this scenario, U.S. real GDP ultimately declines because the supply shock outweighs the demand boost, resulting in a stagflation. So, aside from the direct impact of the US tariff, Australia's business environment is also indirectly affected by the trade tensions around the world, especially by the US China war. Because China purchases about 37% of Australia's exports, any slowdown there, such as one triggered by US tariff, directly reduces demand for Australian goods. Although Australia can attempt to redirect sales to other markets, a broader decline in global demand means commodity prices still fall, causing export revenues to drop significantly. So, as export earnings fall, foreign buyers need fewer Australian dollars to make purchases, which put downward pressure on the currency. This creates a double pressure scenario. US tariffs make certain goods more expensive for American consumers, while a weaker AUD raises the cost of all imports priced in US dollars, such as machinery, consumer products, and key production inputs. Under normal circumstances, a cheaper Australian dollar would help boost export competitiveness, but when overall demand is weak, lower prices alone aren't enough to restore export volumes. As a result, Australia will face a risk of stagflation. In this circumstance, Australian businesses, including our firm, can adopt several strategies to mitigate this negative impact posed by tariff, such as diversifying export markets, restructuring supply chains, financial hedging, nearshoring and regionalization, strengthening compliance and trade readiness, and finally is investing in domestic production and innovation. Let's move on to topic 3, insights from behavior economics. So, behavior economics combines psychology and economics to explain why people act against their long term interests. So, I'll use four key behavioral economics concepts: priming effects, framing effects, status quo bias, and prospect theory to understand why people preferring healthy foods still choosing unhealthy options. So, for instance, priming effect occur when exposure to certain cues such as billboard displaying a sizzling burger automatically activates related tastes, reward memories, and makes someone more likely to crave and choose that unhealthy item. And framing affects, on the other hand, refer to how presenting the same choice in different ways can lead to different decisions. For example, labeling a sugary soda as a energy boost or ground beef as 85% lean rather than 15% fat makes unhealthy foods sound more appealing. And status quo bias is the tendency to stick with familiar routines. For example, grabbing takeaway burgers after work is easier than cooking. So finally, prospect theory explained that individual weight losses more heavily than gains, meaning the immediate loss of skipping a pleasurable slice of pizza feels more painful than uncertain gain of long-term health from eating a salad. So the pizza often wins out. So these four mechanisms combine to override logical choices for a healthier diet. So the next part is comparing traditional economics with behavioral economics. So on the one hand, traditional economics assumes that people are fully rational, seek to maximize utility with stable preferences, have perfect information, and possess unlimited self-control. On the other hand, behavioral economics accepts that people are predictably irrational, making biased emotion-driven choices with context-dependent preferences, limited in attention, information, and finite willpower. So this is the final topic, development in AI and implications for inequality in the labor market. So we might all guess that AI will replace skilled labor force, which involve cognitive, analytical, and creative tasks. However, research have shown that AI doesn't replace skilled workers so much as it makes them more productive, which leads companies to look for and pay more for people who know how to use AI tools, as firms rush to hire employees with AI expertise and even create entirely new job roles. The overall demand for skilled labor goes up, which means the demand curve shifts to the right, as shown in the graph. So this higher demand pushes wage upward and increases the number of skilled workers employed. At the same time, it takes time and resources for people to learn advanced AI skill, so there aren't enough qualified candidates right away. As a result, companies offer wage premiums to attract scarce AI trained talent. In contrast, for unskilled workers, AI rapid adoption in routine and manual tasks means many of their roles, like simple assembly line work or frontline customer support, are increasingly handled by automated system, which lower firms' need for human workers in these jobs. As a result, the demand curve for unskilled labor shifts left, causing wages to fall and fewer unskilled positions to be available. So, from the two graphs I just presented, it can be concluded that AI's growing presence is causing a split in wages. Those with skills that complement AI see rising demand and higher pay, while the routine unskilled roles are being automated to machines, driving down both wages and job availability. So, this polarization of employment opportunities contributes to widening income disparities and poses significant barriers for individuals lacking access to requisite training and educational resources. And finally, wage inequality is expected to rise because the AI market is projected to hit 2.4 trillion USD by 2032, showing massive investment. And 72% of companies are already using AI, and 40% of those plan to invest in more. All of this means firms are doubling on AI, driving up demand and wages for skilled workers while automating routine jobs, which widens the gap between high skill and low skill wages. So that is also the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. And this is the reference list for my presentation.